Tonight, MPs face the monumental assignment of selling a federal budget. How the Liberals are trying to pitch a perfect game plan to Canadians.
So we're going to build, we're going to protect, and we're going to empower.
What's required to secure the votes needed to survive? The U.S. shutdown that has airlines scrambling.
It's very scary actually pass over USA in this moment. Yeah, it's complicated.
Where Canadian travelers could feel the effects of cancellations and delays. Plus, stories of service and sacrifice.
What they were willing to give up to serve their country and take care of one another on the battlefield is quite astounding.
How a military historian is helping Canada remember the contributions of Nova Scotians who are often overlooked.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. Liberal ministers are spending their first post-budget weekend selling the government's fiscal outlook to Canadians. But questions are still looming about one of the biggest portfolios, with the plan light on specifics when it comes to the dollars earmarked for defence. CTV's Jeremy Sharon with more on the pitch points we're hearing today.
Across the country, this is what the next week will look like. Prime Minister Mark Carney's Liberal government is hitting the ground to sell its fiscal plan for Canada's future.
This is about being able to make sure that we control what we can control.
In Montreal and Ottawa today, ministers highlighting a new federal infrastructure fund helping finance new community projects.
We're going to build, we're going to protect, and we're going to empower.
But a big focus in this budget is on defense spending. More than $80 billion over 5 years, yet critics have said details on how that money will be spent are lacking.
Government needs to come forward and provide more of an explanation, more of a roadmap, some more detail about where those dollars are going to go.
The budget also doesn't earmark any money for new submarines, despite this government signaling an urgency to deliver that contract.
We're actually in the middle of negotiations. It's hard to book money when you haven't got a price on an acquisition. So we are in the middle of these negotiations, looking to see how we will get as many industrial benefits as possible.
Now, while setting aside big money for defense is a first step, actually spending it is a different challenge.
Lots of good stuff's happening. It's not yet clear whether or not we're adapting, even if they're all great ideas, as fast as we need to be able to adapt to a huge injection of money.
The Canadian Armed Forces have historically faced challenges spending the money allotted to them.
A lot of our procurement has been stuck in the early 1990s, to be very honest with you.
The minister points to his government's new Defence Investment Agency as a fix, tasked with overhauling and streamlining procurement.
Now, follow-through will be crucial to meeting a new increased NATO spending target of 3.5% of GDP. But this budget doesn't include details about how much closer this fiscal framework gets us to meeting that goal. Heather?
Thanks, Jeremy. CTV's Jeremy Sharon in Ottawa. The RCMP is investigating online threats made against a Liberal MP who crossed the floor from the opposition Conservatives the day that budget was unveiled. The threats against MP Chris d'Entremont were first reported to officers in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia on Wednesday, the day after he parted ways with the Conservative Party. Investigators aren't revealing the nature of the threats, only to say their investigation is ongoing. John Bolton, the former national security advisor to U.S. President Donald Trump, says it was a mistake for Prime Minister Mark Carney to apologize for that now infamous anti-tariff ad made by the Ontario government.
I think that showed weakness, and I think that will be in Trump's consciousness as he looks to see what the next steps are.
President Trump abruptly pulled the plug on trade talks with Canada after Ontario launched a commercial using Ronald Reagan's words to send an anti-tariff message to Americans. Bolton has become an outspoken critic of Trump since leaving his administration. You can watch his full interview tomorrow on CTV's Question Period with Vashi Kapelos. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe is sticking around and plans to run in the next election. His leadership was put into question today during a party convention. CTV's Alison Bamford on why he's taking responsibility for seat losses in two major cities.
Premier Scott Moe put to rest any possible rumblings of replacing him as party leader, earning a strong endorsement, more than 80% approval in a regular leadership review at the Saskatchewan Party Convention.
Obviously, I'm the leader and I'm trying to keep that support strong as well. But our real goal here is very much about the next election.
And that means recognizing what went wrong for the party last election. In 2024, the party lost all of its seats in Regina and held on to just one Saskatoon constituency.
And for that, I take responsibility. I was the face of the campaign and we didn't always get it right.
Buttons are a small sign of a big refocus for the party now working to earn back votes in the province's two biggest cities.
I won my previous election by 4,200 votes. I won this last election by 136. So yes, you have to take every vote seriously.
One political pundit says urban voters were looking for a change a year ago, and education, along with class size concerns in cities, were issues they wanted addressed. But he suggests a lack of support for the party could change.
It's hard to imagine them not having better success next time in some part of suburban Regina and Saskatoon.
The Premier says he's already making changes to drive a better result.
There's a marked change with respect to the demeanor and the approach that we have with, albeit a new Prime Minister, but the same federal government.
Moe's leadership will be back up for review in another 2 years. He's already said he plans to be on the next election ballot, scheduled for 2028, unless called early. Alison Bamford, CTV News, Saskatoon.
Canadian travelers are looking south of the border at a chaotic scene unfolding in major airports. The U.S. government shutdown has led to massive disruptions, and it's expected to get worse. CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Jean-Pierre Bushman on the fallout in Canada.
Up on the board at the Montreal airport, just a few delays and cancellations, but plenty of travelers are bracing for the potential impact of trouble south of the border.
It's very scary actually pass over USA in this moment. Yeah, it's complicated.
I try to avoid to pass US actually, but I don't have any options.
More than 1,000 flights were grounded across the U.S. today. Order of the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA. That slowdown started Friday to ease the pressure on air traffic controllers working without pay during the government shutdown. They're calling in sick in record numbers.
The controller seems more stressed. Those reports from pilots have gone up.
International flights are not targeted, but there could be fallout.
For Canadian travelers especially, if you're connecting on a U.S. flight within the country, that might be where the effect is greatest.
Canadian Airlines reported only minor disruptions today. Air Canada telling CTV News, we continue to fly our normal schedule, but we have experienced some delays of our transborder flights, a relatively small number of which have resulted in cancellations. WestJet also said it experienced some delays, most of which were under 30 minutes, that it rerouted some flights to mitigate the impact. But on the radar, an increase in the number of U.S. trips scrambled. 4% of domestic flights are now canceled. That could go up to 10% by Friday.
Like Portugal or Croatia.
At a travel show, some frequent flyers dreaming of an escape said this was one more reason to avoid landing in the U.S.
Maybe in 4 years and 5 years we'll go back to the U.S. We'll see.
Canadian Airlines say they will continue to monitor the situation closely for impacts this side of the border as more and more flights in the U.S. get canceled. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
A well-known Canadian actor is facing sexual assault charges for an alleged incident dating back nearly 8 years. Mike Smith is best known for his role as Bubbles in the Trailer Park Boys series. According to the Canadian press, court documents show Smith was charged by Halifax police on October 2nd in connection with an alleged assault in December 2017. In a statement, Trailer Park Boys Incorporated said, "We are aware of the allegations concerning Mike Smith dating back to 2017 and take such matters seriously. We recognize how difficult an allegation of this nature is for all involved." It goes on to say that Smith has now stepped away from his role as managing director of the company. Smith is set to appear in court Monday. Manitoba has passed legislation which will allow the province to establish a protective care centre or a detox facility. It means highly intoxicated people can now be detained for up to 72 hours. But as CTV's Alex Carpa reports, some believe this is not the answer.
Joseph Foray is a former crystal meth user and a former heroin addict and has been in recovery for almost 7 years.
When you first come out of the haze and first come out of the, I kind of say the darkness, I mean, everything is brand new.
Earlier this week, the Manitoba government passed a bill which will now allow authorities the ability to detain highly intoxicated people for up to 72 hours, an increase from the current 24-hour maximum. Foray knows what it's like to be in recovery and says he has some hesitations around this new legislation.
My fear is that, they will take people off the streets in the midst of a crystal meth psychosis, and there'll be nothing for them to follow up after 72 hours.
Those being detained will be placed in new protective care centers where people will be assessed by a health professional for the duration of their stay. Some believe this is a step in the right direction, but more work is needed to help those beyond the 3-day threshold.
You would need to be able to build relationship with people, even if they came in multiple times over a period of weeks or months. Just continue to build that relationship so that trust can be formed and a plan can be laid out, and we can get people to the help that they actually need.
Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew says if someone is being detained under this new law, it's because they are causing a problem in the community.
The person who is too caught up in their addiction to be able to take care of themselves is no longer going to decide how safe the rest of the community is.
Foray, who lost his son to a fentanyl overdose in 2023, says there are still too many unanswered questions.
If this is like a piecemeal project, then I'm pretty sure that we'll end up with piecemeal results.
He feels if this is not done right, the new legislation could cause more harm than good. Alex Carpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
To New Brunswick now, where people are still being asked to conserve water as winter nears. CTV Sarah Plowman on the extreme drought conditions across the region.
Water has been a worry for Louis Cormier. Checking the well, a weekly ritual.
A little over 4 feet 9 inches.
His wish for rain recently came true, but more is needed.
It's never been this bad.
Several parts of Canada are experiencing drought. Across much of the Maritimes, it's extreme.
We're looking at some of the driest conditions we've seen in over 30 years in the region.
Dry conditions hurt harvests and dried up wells.
Ours did really well until the end of August, and then it just quit. And it actually just started yesterday morning. We woke up to water.
Some relief for Sky O'Dwyer, but her troubles aren't over.
There's been a lot of mud and stuff coming from the well because it was so dry. And so now all of our filters and stuff are getting clogged.
As winter nears, New Brunswick is urging people to conserve water.
Every drop counts.
They want people to take shorter showers and use the washing machine less.
When we run out of water, that means we've run out of some kind of life in New Brunswick. It will affect our health departments. It will affect our nursing homes.
This agroclimate specialist notes dry conditions started last fall and started to be really felt by late spring. Unlike a hurricane or a thunderstorm, droughts come on slowly.
And it also requires slow recovery. So we're not going to see drought conditions recover overnight.
While there is some rain in the fall forecast, experts say it's not the amount needed to fully recover from this drought. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
People gathered in communities across the country today to mark Indigenous Veterans Day.
Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
A somber sunrise ceremony in Calgary in a field of crosses honoring the contributions and sacrifices of Indigenous veterans. Among the attendees, a nephew who was given his uncle's service medals from the Second World War.
Didn't come home, no. It was today, that's why these are very emotional, to get into the family. And these are the originals. I'm so emotional. I wish my dad was here to see them.
Similar ceremonies were also held in Toronto, Winnipeg, and other cities. Indigenous Veterans Day has been marked since 1994. Coming up after the break.
All of these packages provide a big head start for builders looking to build these kinds of homes in our communities.
How this housing collaboration is expected to cut time and money off your build. Plus, the push to help keep Canadians warm this winter. Several Canadians are among those making the cut today, joining the latest class of inductees into the Hockey Hall of Fame.
And so to be here today, I think I'm hopeful, I know we're hopeful that it's just creating more opportunity and choice for the next generation.
Canadian Olympian Jennifer Botterill, just one of the celebrated players, entered into the hall today. Botterill was part of Canada's 2010 gold medal Olympic team. The other Canadians inducted include gold medal winning Olympic hockey coach Danielle Savijot and Chicago Blackhawks and Edmonton Oilers defenseman Duncan Keith. 8 players in total make up the class of 2025.
For the win! Got it!
The Montreal Alouettes securing their place in the 2025 Grey Cup, beating the Hamilton Tiger Cats. They'll hit the field against the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who narrowly beat the BC Lions this evening. The CFL Championship takes place next Sunday in Winnipeg. You can catch that on TSN. If you are looking to build a home, the federal government wants to help, unveiling a catalog of standardized home designs. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver explains why they say these new homes will help cut time and money off your build.
In the decades after the Second World War, neighborhoods like this, filled with almost identical single-family homes, popped up across Canada. Now the federal government is hoping to do it again with a 21st century twist on Victory Homes.
All of these packages provide this a big head start for builders looking to build these kinds of homes in our communities.
The housing design catalog created by the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation and the federal government features 50 standardized plans with detailed architectural drawings. They range from 493 square foot accessory homes to stacked townhouses and even fourplexes and sixplexes. A big benefit, the drawings are free and nearly permit ready.
These are really ready-to-go drawings. You could be looking to cut 3 to 6 months off of your development time frame by using these plans, and we all know that time is money.
Ottawa hopes the streamlined permit process will save money and help boost supply, especially if multifamily homes are prioritized. But many developers say design hasn't been a big barrier to building.
Constructive materials have continued to go up. Approvals, development charges, just all of the inputs to housing have continually gone up over the years, as well as the time it takes for us to get them approved and build them. And that's really it.
Though developers admit the drawings could help small companies or individuals in some municipalities, experts say affordability will still be a challenge. Construction costs alone are estimated to range from about $205,000 to $5.7 million, depending on your location and type of build.
It's nice to have, it's nice window dressing, but it's not going to move the yardstick in, affordability.
$11.6 million was allocated to this project in the 2024 budget. Ottawa won't say how many new housing units it hopes the catalog will generate, only that it hopes the designs will make building easier and cheaper. Annie Bergeron-Oliver, CTV News, Ottawa.
Still ahead, an urgent need in PEI. Why nonprofits are calling for more help to keep communities warm. Winter clothing drives are picking up across the country as the cold weather takes hold. In Canada's smallest province, advocates say the need is bigger than ever. But as CTV's Maria Saru reports, donations are not keeping pace with the demand.
From mittens to parkas, dozens of donation bags were dropped off to support the Coats for Kids campaign in PEI. All these items will help out islanders who rely on this service. Mom of 3, Wendy Arsenault, is one of them. She wasn't comfortable being on camera, but wanted to share her story.
My youngest need a coat, and then I'm gonna need a coat, so I'm hoping to find one. At least when we go outside, it'll be nice and warm.
Sandra Gallagher helps run the program. She says every year demand grows, and there are more faces in the lineup.
Right now, with the price of everything, like groceries, oil, gas, it's hard if you have one child or more than one child.
But Gallagher says this fall there are fewer drop-offs than usual. She's hoping that will change.
If you have a coat in your closet that you haven't worn in a while, it's too small, would you consider donating it so someone else could get the use out of it?
A few years ago, Gallagher lost her sight. While she still does a lot of the work, her family and friends have stepped up to keep the campaign going. Organizers say all these coats in one room are proof of how a community can come together as the list of neighbors in need gets longer. Maria Sru, CTV News, Summerside, Prince Edward Island.
Still ahead, honoring special Nova Scotia veterans. How a new book is highlighting those from the province who served but were overlooked.
We will never forget your bravery, your strength, your sacrifice.
The very best and bravest of our nation, these heroic souls stood on guard for freedom.
Join the CTV News team and me as Canada comes together to remember.
Remembrance Day 2025, Tuesday morning at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on CTV.
King Charles and other members of the royal family paid tribute today to fallen servicemen and women. Charles, Queen Camilla, Kate, the Princess of Wales, and Prince George attended a Remembrance Day concert at London's Albert Hall, honouring British soldiers who died in combat and marking the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War. And as Remembrance Day nears, a Nova Scotia man is helping us honour the wartime bravery of a special group not often talked about. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth has more on how the author is putting their contribution into the spotlight.
A new book highlights the bravery of Nova Scotians who served on overseas battlefields more than 100 years ago. Military historian Ken Hines says their contributions have been largely overlooked, and he wants to make sure they are remembered.
There's a story about an Indigenous soldier and a black soldier, a nursing sister, and several other people in there who come from all backgrounds, cultures, walks of life, and what they were willing to give up to serve their country and take care of one another on the battlefield is quite astounding.
The book also examines the impact the war had on their lives and families.
30,000 Nova Scotians volunteered for service during the Great War, and 3,000 never came home.
Hines also writes about the commitment and bravery of nurses, women who served on the front lines facing death and danger while caring for others.
One of the women I write about, nursing sister Minnie Follett, she and 13 other nursing sisters lost their lives after having dealt with scores and scores of injured soldiers in battlefield hospitals.
Hines says the book Service and Sacrifice is intended to celebrate a group of people from Nova Scotia who felt they had to do something to serve their country in the First World War. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
That is our newscast for this Saturday night. I'm Heather Butts. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night, and I'll see you again tomorrow.